I go way back here, I'm framed sort of, right? Uh, and see how ratty and gross I am. I've been really sick the last couple of days. I've not cleaned up yet. Uh, I've already had a couple of sweaty, delirious fever sleeps in this shirt I'm wearing. Um, Mea Maxima Culpa, I should hope. I am, like I said, not really ready to speak to the camera, to you, or to anything else or anyone else, but I wanted to come back to Harry Belafonte while I'm still thinking about him. Musician and actor Harry Belafonte passed away this morning at the age of 96. Judging from the obituaries I've seen, and a few of my Facebook friends posted about him, almost all of them much older than me, and I'm not young. I think the world will remember Belafonte as a political activist. In the last few decades, he has been extraordinary in terms of bringing his voice, his presence, his money, and his fundraising prowess to causes that benefit the world in which, unfortunately, Black Americans still live at structural disadvantage in so many ways. He isn't remembered very well for his musical career, I think, because Belafonte was really uneven as a musician. Brilliant folk singer. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but my friend Bob Jordan from Massachusetts pointed out to me that the guy who's the brilliant guitar player on a lot of those recordings was also the producer and arranger, and so half the act when Harry Belafonte did record great music. You can hear that clearly, particularly the guitar playing. His greatest hits album, the standard one that will be the only Harry Belafonte LP most people are familiar with, more than one or two tracks on, even that's pretty uneven. I don't think it's suitable or fitting to only pay attention to the Calypso hits. That being said, Deo, the Banana Boat song, the song that's in Beetlejuice, yeah, I guess it really is his best recording, but he recorded a lot of folk music in a lot of different subgenres, experimentally, mostly, and not really very successfully in terms of aesthetics in any broad sense. With that being said, I can't say that, for instance, Harry Belafonte recording Hava Nagila or doing Danny Boy in a put on of an Irish accent kind of reminds me of what's his name's accent in Mary Poppins, for how ridiculous it is. I can't say I'm sorry, I've heard those. I can't recommend that you do other than get really stoned and wade through his studio recordings track by track, because the best stuff is not really gathered anywhere, even in playlists on YouTube. You got to go digging, like I have, and I have found it more than rewarding to do so. As an actor, he's one of the first black leading men in American cinema who was accepted by larger, that is, mainstream white audiences. And again, I'm not sure there's really really a masterpiece of a movie I could point you to that he was in. Mostly he was in sort of second string movies that mostly deserve to have been largely forgotten. The World, the Flesh, and the Devil comes to mind immediately. It's one of the first post-nuclear Holocaust dramas, his late 50s. But basically the premise is that the last two people alive on Earth are Harry Belafonte, a black man, and a white woman. I can't remember who the actress is. It's awkward, dated, but earnest. Wrestles with issues that would still be thorny now were we so blessed as to have an honest enough cinema to tackle them again or revisit them. I actually wanted to make this video specifically because of a conversation I once had with Jim Van Bebber, the filmmaker, about Belafonte. I don't remember what led to this conversation exactly. I don't remember what we were talking about specifically. Jim and I both serious movie nerds and talked a lot about a lot of movies. But I asked Jim why he thought, and I should say, Jim Van Beber is one of the few guys I've met in my life who is just unquestionably, undeniably smarter than I am about movies. Uh, that guy's gaze as an observer and a critic may be um, badly marred, at least in communicating these observations to others by his problem with drinking. That's why we're not really friends anymore. Anyone who's been Jim's friend in the last 20, 30 years tell you a similar story. Similarly sad story. But dude has insights for days when you ask him and you get the chance to listen to what he has to say. And for some reason, I asked him why he thought the first wave of leading men in American cinema who were black, who were allowed to draw white audiences or could draw white audiences to a cinema, were who they were. Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier. I probably mentioned Paul Robeson in this context. I think that's who all I was thinking. They all have a pretty similar demeanor. Van Beber right away had an answer. It's because they're island guys. They are not specifically, strictly speaking, African American in the sense that they do not have the demeanor of a man who has understood his entire life that his folks are descended from slaves, and that history of class oppression is embedded in their mannerism, their manner, the way they present themselves, their presence, and that white American audiences, though they probably weren't consciously noticing that this was as important as it was to them, they read it too, and somehow that made it okay for them to embrace these guys as leading men. They're not they do not read on film like the descendants of former slaves from the Deep South, from the days of race-based American slavery. I think he's right. There's something genuinely princely about Harry Belafonte. He scans on screen as a man who is rich and has always been and always will be, in many and multiple senses. And now that I say this at this length, I have actually thought of a movie I would recommend unreservedly that he starred in. Barely came out, 90s picture called White Man's Burden. It was basically a race drama in which the casting is reversed. So the roles of white American characters are played by black actors, and the roles of black American characters are played by white actors. And this illuminates the typical hard-hitting, issue-embracing race drama in ways that are never less than rewarding or discomforting. Sometimes it's funny. It's always dark. It's a tough movie. The main black guy is played by John Travolta. The main rich white guy is played by Harry Belafonte, and he's great. Great in that movie. Also around the same time, he starred in a mostly forgotten Robert Altman gangster drama called Kansas City. Harry Belafonte played the most vicious, evil gangster you could possibly imagine in that movie. It was rough just even dealing with the characters in the story in that movie. This kind of movie's got such a harsh, dark ending. I don't remember it very well, but I remember getting to the end and thinking, shit, man, that's not fun. But I remember really liking the movie all around, including the bad ending, the rough ending. And like I said, Belafonte in it, he's villainous on the level of like Frank and Blue Velvet. It's just an intense fucking performance and really out of character for Belafonte and the way he was usually cast. If they could decide who gets to live beyond and above the laws of God, if they could hand out extensions on life, a card, an award, they gave you more just for being right and good in the world, Harry Belafonte would have earned and deserved that honor. And I guess there's nothing more to say about that. Uh, yeah. It's not like I knew him. It's not like I met him. But man, I miss him already.